Way back in the 15th century, two kingdoms right next door to each other kicked off one of the most intense rivalries in all of history. We're talking about Portugal and Spain. And this race they started, it didn't just change Europe. It literally redrew the entire map of the world. So let's get into this high-stakes game. And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? Because this was no friendly competition. This was a flat-out, ruthless dash for power, for glory, and for riches. And it would end up building the world we know today.
So let's meet our two main players, Portugal and Spain. You've got two serious maritime powers, both sitting there on the Iberian Peninsula, and both were staring at the exact same prize.
So what was really driving this thing? Well, you can boil it all down to a race for absolutely incredible wealth. This was never just about planting a flag on some distant shore. It was about filling up the national treasuries back home. I mean, you have to ask, what was actually at stake here? Well, both Portugal and Spain knew that whoever controlled the sea trade routes would control everything. It meant you could get your hands on mind-bogglingly valuable goods, spices, silk, you name it, and you could cut out all the middlemen who made the overland routes so slow and expensive. The nation that could pull this off wasn't just going to be rich, it was going to be a global superpower.
Now, you'd think with the same goal, they might have had similar plans, right? Nope. They did the complete opposite. Let's take a look at how their totally different strategies basically set them on a collision course with destiny.
Okay, so we really need to get one thing straight about the original mission. This was not about discovering new continents. Why? Because from a European point of view, they didn't even know those continents were there. The goal was much simpler, but still totally revolutionary. Find a way to sail to Asia and grab control of all that amazing trade. And you can really see their different personalities in how they tackled this. Portugal played the long game. They were cautious, methodical. They used decades of sailing experience to slowly, carefully work their way down the coasts of Africa, always looking for a way to swing east. Spain, though, they were the new kids on the block, recently unified and just desperate to get a leg up on their rivals. So they made a huge, risky gamble. They bet everything on the idea that sailing straight west across the big, empty Atlantic would be a massive shortcut.
But here's where the story takes a wild turn. Spain's big gamble? It didn't get them to Asia. It led them to something else. And this completely unexpected discovery was about to change the entire game.
Can you just imagine the shock? You're a Spanish sailor, you're expecting to see the shores of the Indies any day now, and instead, you find the islands of the Caribbean. For a little while, they actually thought they'd made it, that they were just on the outskirts of Asia, but it slowly started to sink in that this was somewhere entirely new.
And that's how this phrase entered the history books, the New World. You can see why, right? From their perspective in Europe, it was a perfectly logical name for two whole continents they had no idea even existed. But, and this is a really critical point, we have to understand what that term actually means. As the source material puts it, New World is a completely Eurocentric idea. It totally ignores the fact that these lands were, of course, very, very old. They were home to complex, thriving civilizations that had been there for thousands and thousands of years. So this accidental discovery just blew up the whole rivalry. The race wasn't about finding a tidy little trade route anymore. Suddenly, a much, much bigger prize was on the table. The rules of the game had completely changed. You can see how the goalposts just kept moving. It all started with just trying to find a path. Then, bam, this incredible encounter happens. And that very quickly escalated into the final phase, a frantic rush to claim the land itself and everything in it. And that's when things just went into overdrive. The competition got so much more intense. Tensions between Portugal and Spain just went through the roof. Because now the race wasn't about navigating oceans, it was about conquering continents. It became a mad grab for territory. So after all this competition, all these decades of rivalry, what was the end game? While the legacy is nothing short of world-changing. This wasn't just some chapter in European history. This was a turning point for the entire planet.
I mean, the impact was just massive. This rivalry basically wrote the playbook for colonization for the next few hundred years. It created the very first truly global trade networks, connecting all four corners of the Earth in a way that had never happened before. A huge exchange of goods, ideas, and of course, people. You could say that the world we live in today was built on the foundations that this Iberian race laid down.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought. You have this intense competition for resources and influence between two powerful nations, and it fundamentally reshaped the planet.
It really makes you wonder, what are the great rivalries of our time, whether they're about technology or economics or politics, that are redrawing the map for all of us right now?